Craig, thanks for joining me today. And if you could start off, introduce yourself, tell us about your business and why you do what you do.
Sure. My name is Craig Siiro, and I'm a CPA. Been one since the early 80s. I formed Integrated Consulting back in 2010. I started it because I have an affinity for the entrepreneur. I started in a very small CPA firm. We got to know a lot of entrepreneurs, smaller clients, really liked them. Appreciate their passion and the fact that they're all in, because that's their whole livelihood and whole life. So they're great people to work with. You can develop a relationship with them, and it's a great business.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Craig. All right, so Craig, the format for this is called 3 questions. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and I'd really like you to think about answering them from the perspective of how you come at the business, because right, each of us and some of the other people that we have within our group, we all are, call it a center of expertise within that. We work with CEOs and leadership teams in their companies, right? And we provide what we feel is a valuable service, and we all have expertise in what we do. So think about answering the questions from that position of your expertise and what you specifically do to help those CEOs and their companies. So first of all, is in the work you do with CEOs, what are the 3 most common issues you see them facing?
I would say the first and probably the foremost, again, we're talking about entrepreneurial companies, is undercapitalization. So a lot of times they'll have a great idea. They'll build up a business plan. They'll raise some money from friends and family or their own, get a bank. And there's a perception that here's how the business is going to work. And unfortunately, real life happens and doesn't work exactly as you'd anticipated to. And sometimes you can deal with the bumps, but a lot of times that just puts a lot of pressure on the entrepreneur relative to that, because they just don't have enough capital to make too many mistakes relative to their business model, or too many economic shifts and those type of things that they have to deal with. So I would say undercapitalization is one. I would say the other one is uncertainty. Things that there's a certainty relative to what their plan is, but there's an uncertainty how they're going to do it and how they're going to accomplish it, and what's going to happen around the corner. So there's just a lot of kind of, what's going to happen? What do I do about that? Is this going to be good for my business, bad for my business? Should I hire this person? Should I buy this machine? There's a lot of things that an entrepreneur has to think about with not, pure certainty on what the future would hold.
Yep. Yeah. I see that a lot as well, and I agree with you. It's that because it's hey, we generally have goals. Business owners will have goals. We want to get to this larger company, and we want to accomplish this. But lack of clarity around having a plan to do that, and even also just a planning process to be able to work with issues as they arise, because stuff always goes wrong. You can have the best laid plan in the world, and something comes up. You just have to be able to work through that and make the course corrections.
That's exactly right. And I would say probably one of the biggest was the third one is probably the lack of cash flow planning. And people know what their bank is. They might know what their burn rate is, but really we look 12 to 20 weeks out just to kind of get an idea of what's happening with the cash flow, so that everybody's comfortable. Do we have enough? Do we need to talk to the bank today about maybe a cash flow need we're going to need a month? So it's that planning aspect of it, and not reacting. Just not making reactionary moves relative to that, but really doing a planful thing. It's a lot easier to go to bank 8 weeks before you need it than when you need it on Friday to make payroll.
Yeah, Craig, I still remember one of my CEO roundtables when I was a CEO. One of the members coming into the table and saying, "I woke up at 3 a.m. yesterday morning and realized I couldn't make payroll this week," and that's just a knife in the heart, right? And so we spent the whole meeting talking about the importance of cash flow planning. He wasn't doing it at all. I was shocked then. Now in the work that you and I do with entrepreneurial companies, I see it too many times.
You'd be surprised how many people don't even know what their cash balance is. I mean, it's kind of interesting from that perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks, Craig, for those. I think that is very common with a lot of the companies we work with. So let's go to number 2. And this, given your field of expertise, what's the most common mistake that you see the CEO is making? So, right, these first 3 are issues that they're confronting. They generally see those. But what do you, from your field of expertise, see? The mistakes they're making, what they're doing wrong.
I don't think they have a plan. Now, then they might have a budget, but they don't really
Mhm.
they don't really have a plan where they're looking at the drivers of their business and how am I going to react to certain things and what am I going to do. They
Mhm.
became mostly reactionary. I'm going to react to this. I'm going to react to that. But they don't really have some sort of deep systematic plan that they've looked at and understood their business. I can tell you most clients we go in and build a financial model for them. They say they understand their business more today than they did before we started because when we look at it, just not what's revenue going to be, we want to understand how what drives revenue, what are the components of it, what are the components of margin. There's a lot of questions that nobody has an answer for, but we help them figure it out and we kind of find it. But really understanding the nuts and bolts of the business and what's the drivers and how to be successful.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely true. I always try and I use that metaphor about driving a car with a dashboard, because so many times we think of finances as these elaborate spreadsheets and P&L statements and balance sheets, and which a lot of business people don't know how to read very well.
Right.
But I think it's people like you that I always think about. Craig, you need to get to the details, but then what we need to do is have a dashboard, like the dashboard in your car, right? There's 5 to 7 important instruments that you
Right.
need to see to drive your car.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's like without having that in a business, it's like driving your car with the dashboard covered up. And I'd even say without a plan, it's like driving with your whole windshield covered up and just trying to
Absolutely.
drive in your rearview mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. No, it's exactly true. That's exactly true.
Yeah. Well, so Craig, then again, from your expertise, if we can make this actionable, because I really like doing this so I can share this information with CEOs and entrepreneurs, so hopefully give them some value, something that they can do if they resonate with any of these issues or problems we've talked about. What's one piece of advice or one action that a CEO, an entrepreneur, a business owner could take to help them in today's environment?
I 3 words: plan, plan, plan. I mean, I just think you have to build one. And again, I would say some people say, I've heard people say, I can't build a model for my business. My business is too complicated. You can build a model for virtually any business, but it's one thing is to build a plan, but also to measure against, like you talked about the dashboard. What did we do today compared to what we thought we were going to do today or this month? Like we're almost like forecasters. We're almost like weather forecasters too. I can assure you the first model we build is going to be wrong. Any model is going to be wrong. But the
Mm-hmm.
most important thing is understand why it was wrong and what are we going to do? Because it could be right, wrong, or either way, but why? So you become better at understanding the business, how it works, and how you can make business decisions to get you to your goals and objectives. So it's really taking a look at the plan and doing one and then measuring against it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Craig, I won't name the company, but you and I share a client in common, which is how we met. And I know the CEO of that company told me when the pandemic first hit that they almost went out of business because they lost a year's
Right.
worth of business in the first
Right.
3 days because of the business they were in. And they had a plan, right? Well, that plan didn't include COVID, a pandemic. I don't think anybody's plan did, but one thing he shared with me, he said, Glenn, if we hadn't been working with professionals like you and Craig, we wouldn't have known how to get together as a team and correct our plan.
Exactly.
So it wasn't right. They knew they had to throw and the other thing too, I think you and I both know, like they didn't throw away their long-term plan. Like they stuck
Right.
to their and they still are, and they're still doing really well. But the fact that they had been planning, been talking as a leadership team, they had the tools and the measurement so that when they saw things going south really quickly,
Right.
they were able to regroup, come up with a new plan. I remember in 2 days and course corrected it, and they survived. Yes. And are now thriving. So yeah, that's a powerful testament.
I agree with that 1,000,000%.
Yeah. All right, Craig. So this has been great. I really appreciate this. Very valuable advice. Where can we learn more about you and what you do?
Sure. We have a website. We spend a lot of time and energy on it. So it's integrated-consulting.net. And there's a lot of good information in there. And I think we've talked before, you've used it with clients and said what we do. And I think it's a very good description of the services that we provide.
That's great.